Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Matt Bernier. Two stakes races on tap at Woodbine on Sunday. We're first going to take a look at the Ontario Lassie Stakes. These are juvenile fillies going 1 mile and a 16th on the Tapeta surface. You can bet the race and the nice Woodbine Sunday card with a DRF Bets account. Sign up at bets.drf.com, receive a 300% deposit match. Let's meet the 2-year-old fillies getting set to go 1 mile and a 16th in the Ontario Lassie, carded as race number 6 at Woodbine on Sunday. And Matt, Mark Cassie's got the race surrounded. He's got 3 entrants, and a good priced one is down towards the rail. The number 1, Hasta La Vista Baby, looks like a private purchase after a nice turf win.
I thought she was very impressive winning that turf debut most recently. Now, that was at the end of September, and you've got to deal with a number of different things this time around. First time going out for Cassie, you can't help but think that's a positive, but first time going 2 turns, getting back to the synthetic, facing winners for the first time. She's going to have a lot thrown her way. I had a really difficult time kind of deciphering this race, making heads or tails of it, but I will say I was impressed with the way that she ran that day, and if you think that translates to 2 turns on the synth, then I think you can view her as an interesting longer price.
All 3 of Cassie's horses stepping up out of the maiden ranks, trying 2 turns for the first time, including the morning line favorite, the number 4, Western Curl, who earned a really solid 75 Beyer speed figure in her debut, also on the turf. I thought it was a nice professional performance. She was bet down to 2-1. You never know how these 2-year-old fillies are going to react when they're asked the question. When she made the lead, she drifted in a little bit despite being urged left-handed by Eurico Rosa de Silva, but it was a solid performance. When you think about pedigree for 2 turns, she has it in spades. She is by Curlin out of a 3/4 sister to Escandrea.
Yeah, I really have no knock about that debut. I suppose the only thing that I can say is, you know, we've talked about it, or I've talked about it more and more recently. You can take a look and see the differential between the Beyer speed figure and the Timeform US rating. The Beyer, if you believe that 75, that makes her a primetime player in a spot like this. The 89 Timeform rating, that gives her a marginal edge over some of the other foes in here. Maybe not some sort of giant edge. And at 9-5, I think you need to factor in facing winners for the first time, 2 turns on a different surface. It's a lot of things at a short price that I don't know that I'd be rushing to bet her in.
And I think you make a very strong point about the different opinions of the figure makers in this race, because our next contender, the 3rd of the 3 Cassie trained horses, expected to be the pace setter on our Timeform US pace projector. This horse got a 92, I believe, figure from a Timeform US standpoint, and only a 61 from a Beyer standpoint. Scats Rose, I didn't think beat the weakest field last time out, but at least she did it on a synthetic surface. She's got that good tactical speed, as we see, and I think she has enough pedigree to get the 2 turns. She's a half-sister to a stakes-placed Router.
Yeah, and really it is. That's kind of what it boils down to from a figure standpoint. If you believe the Beyer, she's quite slow at this point, and at 2-1, she's no bargain. If you look at it from the Timeform US standpoint, you brought up the pace-aided number, that's a 92. The raw number was a 91. That's the highest last out in the field. So you can look at it one of 2 ways and say she's coming in here, and perhaps you're going to get an overlaid price if you believe the Timeform rating. But if I'm to believe the morning line, you know, it's just one of those things. You as the handicapper need to make a decision. I will say, you brought up the pedigree. There is still just part of me that looks at it and says, taking out winners for the first time, now you're stretching out from 6 to 1 mile and a 16th. It's a big ask in her 3rd lifetime start.
Eurico Rosa de Silva, interestingly enough, named on both the 7 and the 4th, so there are going to be changes. Keep an eye out before post time. Emma Jane Wilson is named on both the 5 and the 6. We'll get to Notice Me a little bit later, but let's talk about Artelena, who just missed last time out, going 6.5 furlongs on the synth, and the winner of that race looks like a promising horse. She came back to run 2nd in the Glorious Song Stakes with a 67 Beyer. Now, her figures both on Timeform and Beyer are a little bit light, but we see her sitting in a 2nd position in the Timeform US pace projector. I think she can get this distance. I like the arch on the bottom. A good trip could be coming.
You know, the interesting thing with Artelena, I really was taken by her maiden score 3 starts back. I thought she was visually very impressive that day. She won by 11 lengths, but she did so in gate-to-wire fashion. They come back and run her in the Natalma. Timeform had all of those fractions early color-coded red, so at least she has a bit of an excuse for finishing up the track. I have to admit that N1X, I was disappointed. I thought she had a full head of steam, and she should have gone by the horse that was out there on the front end. You see that short comment line, it says hung. This is one of those instances where I agree with it. I feel like she really had no excuse not to go by. Makes me wonder a little bit about running style. Is she better suited when she's out there on the lead? And if that's the case, I don't know if I love her chances here.
The number 3, Lady Azalea, would certainly benefit if Timeform US is correct that this pace will be fast. She is a mid-pack to late runner, or so it seems. And while her buyers just seem to have topped out in the mid-60s, Timeform US rated her Princess Elizabeth a lot more kindly. They gave her a 90 pace-adjusted speed figure that day, finishing a well-beaten second behind Bold Script. Now she gets Lasix for the first time. Lady Azalea's got an experience edge on a lot of these fillies and might get the right setup.
I also look at the way that she runs, and I kind of feel like this mile and a 16th, the 2-turn configuration, clearly she's already done it a couple of times, but I really think some of these other girls, they may not really appreciate it when I know this is what she wants. And keep in mind, getting Lasix on there for the first time, that could be a giant move here for Roger Attfield. I think she's interesting underneath.
The 2 Musk Bowl is going to stretch all the way out from 6 furlongs to a mile and a 16th. Perhaps we'll see a little bit more speed from her, but she's tried stakes competition 3 times already without much success. She's got to run the race of her career, in my opinion.
She's a filly that's slow on both figures, no matter which way you look at it, buyer or Timeform.
Crumlin Time just didn't fire last time out in the South Ocean Stakes. She's seeking to become the 3rd black-type earner out of this damn Whistler. But again, from a speed figure standpoint, she has only exceeded 60 on 1 occasion, and that was 2 starts back when a no-threat next to last in the Grade 3 Mazarine.
Yeah, that's the major concern. You draw a line through that race, and let's call a spade a spade. That race itself wasn't all that good. Draw a line through that, she's not even in the same ballpark as these other fillies.
Well, we'll take a look at our top selections for the Ontario Lassie Stakes on Sunday. And Matt, you like a horse that's 10-1 on the morning line. The number 6, Notice Me, who I thought ran quite well considering her last start was her first start around 2 turns, and really I thought she gave a nice game performance.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's kind of how I'm taking a view of her. That was her first start off of a little bit of a layoff. She took on a nice filly and Preferred Guest. I think she's quite solid. If she were in a race like this, she would fit really nicely. I think second off the bench, you get a forward move here for Catherine Day Phillips. Take a look. She's never been higher than 2-1 in 4 lifetime starts. She's always taken money, so perhaps you do get an opportunity here. Second time going long. I know that this isn't going to be much of an issue for her. I think she gets some fitness out of that run most recently. And if she gets a little bit of pace to run it, I think she's going to come with the run. If you believe the 10-1 morning line, I think she's just an interesting alternative to the shorter prices.
And then again, an almost 30-point differential from the pace-adjusted by Timeform US speed figures and the buyer figure. 55 buyer last time, 84 Timeform US pace-adjusted. So she fits on the Timeform US figs, and she has some tactical speed. And her dam was a nice little horse as well, a stakes place turf sprinter. I saw enough from Western Curl in the debut to think that she's going to work out a good trip in here. Stalking, I'm not worried about the distance. We mentioned the big names in the pedigree. She's not a very appealing price, but I think she's the one to beat. Matt, give me numbers. You like the 6 on top?
Yes, 6-4-1-3 for me.
I'm going 4-7-3-1 in the Ontario Lassie, and friends, make sure to bet it with a DRF Bets account because there's a big deposit match waiting for you, 300% when you sign up at bets.drf.com. Approximate post time for the Lassie, the Ontario Lassie, 3:37 Eastern. Good luck.